Talks Homeschooling. This is Dana Susan Beasley of angelarts.biz. So today I'm going to talk about homeschooling tips and tricks. So just so you know, I started homeschooling my son Sam in 2008, and this was after a kindergarten and first grade disaster in a private Christian school. Realized that he was a square peg in a round hole. And so I ended up homeschooling him starting from second grade. And I had learned so much along the way, still much that is to learn. So one of the first things that I did when I realized that I was homeschooling is I went to our local homeschool convention, and I went to that for years. And it was very helpful. Okay, so first of all, in a convention, you're going to meet fellow parents, and that's going to be a great support and resource. And then you're going to get the knowledge that you need on how to homeschool, whether that's how to find curriculum or the state laws that you need to follow, so many things that you can find in a convention. That's the first step that I would do. And then I would, from there, get involved in a local support group. That was also like the second thing I did. First or second, I'm not really sure which one came first. It's like asking the chicken or which came first, the chicken or the egg. So you need to do that. So finding a support group was the first or second thing I did. I cannot remember. It was all within almost the same time frame. And I was with that support group the whole time, pretty much, that I was homeschooling Sam. So getting involved in a local support group is going to help you, again, make friends with fellow mothers and for your kids to make friends. Because one of the things they had that was great when Sam was younger was they had a play group, like they met at parks once a week. And so we would meet at a park. And there were field trips, and then there was a once a month meeting for parents that we got to pray for one another. We heard some speakers and had some fun and that kind of stuff. So it was really, really good. Okay, and then you want to choose curriculum based on your child's learning style and your teaching style. So I knew after the disaster that Sam had in school in first grade, I knew that he was a hands-on learner. And so I knew that whatever I did needed to teach him through that. So I chose to do unit studies, and I loved them. That is what we did, and we actually still do that. Sam is still doing some school. He's, developmentally delayed, so, we're still working on things, and that's fine. And I also chose it on my teaching style because I absolutely loved that method. And so I'm a creative person, he's a creative person, and it fit us perfectly. And then also I was very eclectic. I didn't just use one curriculum. I used what I needed for math, I used what I needed for language arts, that kind of thing. And if it didn't work, I threw it out and started all over again. And then determine not to bring traditional school to your homeschooling. This is something that I realized early on, because traditional schooling, like this school did not work for Sam. And that means like lots of worksheets and that kind of thing. Did not work for Sam. In fact, I came to find out later, after I pulled him out, or after, that first grade and I started homeschooling, I realized that he had dysgraphia, which is a disconnect between your brain and your hand. So no wonder he struggled in school so much. He cannot physically write. So, be a scribe. So I learned how to work around that. So, but I decided that worksheets wasn't going to be a thing in our homeschool. And if I fell back into that, I always regretted it. It hardly ever worked doing worksheets. Worksheets don't work for us. They never did. But I always had a better time doing something active. For instance, when we learned the addition math tables, I took a shower curtain, I made a hundreds math table on it, I drew it on there, and then I blew up some balloons and I taped the balloons to some of the numbers, the answers, and I put it outside, and Sam got his airsoft gun, and I would rattle off, like 5 plus 5 equals, and then he'd shoot the 10 square. with the gun and blow up the balloon. Fun. I can say he's really good at addition. Even though he struggles in math, he's pretty good at addition. So that was one of the things that I did. I also got a book by Carol Barnier. I never could remember the name of this book because it's kind of strange. It's something about jumping from the fridge to, I can't remember the name of this book. It's kind of hard to remember. You can look Carol Barnier up on Amazon, and her last word is Barnier. That's her last name. But it gave ideas like, when a child is reciting some kind of vocabulary or a math fact or something like that, have them jump on a trampoline. So there were a lot of creative things that I did with my child like that. And guess what? It bonded us, because one of the things that I thought, led me to put him in kindergarten and first grade was, I could never teach Sam. We'd fight each other. He wouldn't do what I wanted him to do. That was my impression, and I was wrong. I was so wrong, because the truth is, when I spent time with him, he listened better. Was it easy? No, it wasn't easy, and I was always learning and relearning. But when I did those kinds of activities, it drew him in, and he enjoyed it, and he learned better. Okay? So, because the truth is, there's two ways you can learn. You can learn like the golden retriever, say. Imagine the golden retriever, all fluffy and nice and fun and playful. Or you can learn with a Doberman Pinscher. Mean, do it. That's what I told you. How do you learn better? With the golden retriever. A reading specialist told me that a long time ago. Okay. Have your child evaluated. That was another one of the first things I did. I took my child to a professional evaluator, and she told me where he was at. And so I understood that. I got it, what he was struggling with and so forth. And that was when my suspicion was confirmed that my son has Asperger's. And that helped me with that. Okay, remember, this is an important one. There's no such thing as behind. Every child is different. And our school system puts so much pressure on parents. You are not at second grade level. Well, who determined that? Okay, and I don't even, levels. If you're going to homeschool the whole way, grade levels don't matter. Shock! Because the truth is, if you homeschool them to their ability and help them with their weaknesses in a patient, loving manner, knowing that, maybe in first grade for your child, reading just should not be emphasized at all. Just read aloud to the child. That's it. Let them enjoy it. Let them enjoy time with you and that reading aloud time. Then they can understand how wonderful books are. But by pressuring them, and when they're in first grade, I'm just an example, when they're not developmentally ready for it, is only going to hurt them. And it's going to stress you out. Because there is no such thing as behind. Now, maybe that looks a little differently if you're deciding to put your child back in public school. You may want to think that differently. But for the most part, unless your child is developmentally delayed, your child will excel no matter what. So many, like the author of the unit study that I used, which was Konos. Her kids who went through her program, that she wrote, they are incredible people. They went to Hillsdale College. They are doing amazing entrepreneurial type things. They're very amazing children. They were always ahead of their peers. So you don't have to worry about, these certain milestones that some professional in an Ivy Tower decided. Everybody is so different. Everybody has strengths and weaknesses. I'm not that good in math, but, I am a writer and a reader. That's, my thing. My husband is very strong in math and he's an architect, but he doesn't read literature. Okay, so what does that matter? So it's the same thing with kids. You can help them excel in what they enjoy and what they love to do, help them get further, and you can help them excel more slowly in their weaknesses, and that's okay. So all the pressure in the world is not going to alleviate a child who is not ready developmentally to get a certain concept. All right, enough with that. That's kind of my soapbox. So here's another important thing. Play and have fun with your child. I literally wrote a book about play. In fact, you can find out about that on lostartofplay.com. I wrote a very small book about play that is researched and will show you the reasons behind the importance of playing with your child, and it will give you some practical ideas to play with your child and how to incorporate that into your homeschool. So again, that's lostartofplay.com. But the thing is, it's such an important way to get that connection with your child, because it can be a hard thing when you're your child's teacher. You can, if you're not careful, bring that kind of stressful dynamic into the relationship. But when you're playing with your child, you are connecting with them on a whole level. For instance, a lot of what we did, in my son's younger years, and sometimes even to this day, we play games, but playing a simple card game, like we'd play addition war or multiplication war, and we just play that simple game. But a lot of times we would be playing games. In fact, it's entirely possible just to base your homeschooling on only game schooling. That is totally possible. Okay, so playing and having fun is so important. Getting out and going on field trips. That's something that we did all the time, was going on field trips, going on trips, going on vacations. Very, very important. Very good thing to do with your child. And then give your child time to explore, especially if you're taking your child home from a traditional school environment, whether public or private. You need to give them some time to decompress. That's called deschooling, and you will want to do that because you want to help them get over that stress they feel. I mean, to this day, my son has trauma about, especially first grade. Trauma, major trauma from that. So you need to help heal through that. And then you need to give them that time to explore so they have a reigniting of their love for learning. That's what happened to Sam. I gave him that time, and next thing I knew, he was learning everything he could about dinosaurs. Now, did I sit down and show him a book about dinosaurs? Never. No, not at that point. He learned all about it himself. He knew more about dinosaurs than most adults, certainly more than me. He totally took that topic and learned it, and I know that he knows it still to this day. I couldn't remember that information. I learned all that when I was a kid in school. You think I remember any of that? No, but Sam remembers that stuff. So give them time to explore. And then remember that you're your child's best teacher, especially if they have any kind of differing ability, or what's commonly called special needs. I like to say differing ability. So you're your child's best teacher because you love your child the most and you know your child. If you don't know your child, spend time with your child, but you most likely, as a mother, know your child the best. So you're your child's best teacher. And then lastly, and I know this is a lot, get involved in your child's interests. That, I don't remember when I clued into that. I don't remember, but I started cluing into that and things started changing. And I'm not saying that it's not challenging, especially when you have a son with Asperger's. But I started to clue into this, and I started to clue into it, I know, in a major way when I saw that he was playing a game that was all based on medieval fighting, The name of it escapes me, but he was playing this game, and I saw that he loved history. I also saw, like me, I passed it on to him, that he liked Lord of the Rings and Tolkien and Narnia and all that stuff. He liked all that. And so there came a time when actually his cousin and I realized that what would really help Sam was a live action role-playing club. And so we designed a whole program for him, because at that time he was so tied to the computer. That's all he could think about. And so I asked my nephew to move up and help me start this LARPing club. And we are now starting our 4th year, and we've had 3 summer camps. And so this started getting him out of this shell and this desire to be in front of the computer all the time. And now Sam is actually part of the staff, teaching the kids how to sword fight and helping me figure out weapons they can make and accessories they can make. So that has done incredible for him. Okay, so here's another way that I really delved into his interests. I didn't intend for this to happen, but it's kind of funny. So one day, I don't know, 3 years ago, I can't remember, Sam says to me, "Mom, I want you to go Bigfooting with me." I'm like, what? And so, you see, Sam spent a lot of his time studying cryptozoology. If you don't know, cryptozoology is the study of animals that have not been proven to exist, like Bigfoot or Sasquatch. So he told me that one night, and I'm like, and part of me, frankly, I was scared, because I grew up in the 70s, and I saw In Search Of with Leonard Nimoy about Bigfoot. I know that we went to a movie about it in the theater. I cannot remember what it was called. And my brother and I used to roam the mountains in New Mexico, like the Jemez Mountains, quote unquote, looking for Bigfoot. And I was pretty certain at age 14, when I lived in Littleton, that Bigfoot was going to come over the hill and in my house and in my room and take me away and kidnap me. I really thought that at age 14. I was kind of a pansy, really, when I think about it. So he says this to me. And then we got a camper, and you know what? That's his interest. Let's do it. So we went to a place called Bailey, Colorado, which has had a lot of sightings. And somehow along the way of my searching, because I started to research this a bit, like, okay, that's what he's interested in. What can I do? How can I help him? And I came across a place in Bailey called the Sasquatch Outpost that's run by Jim and Daphne Myers. And so we went to Bailey. We looked around that campground a little bit. I think it was to the south or west. I think it was to the south. We looked around there, and I saw an X way up in the tree. And like an X is like a sign that they have this. It's a territorial sign, allegedly. And I was like, this could really be true. And I got freaked out. And we were sitting on a log, and I was looking ahead, and I saw this stump. And in my head, it was like, oh my gosh, that's a Bigfoot. But it wasn't. But I was just so scared. It was so funny. But so then we went to the Sasquatch Outpost, and I loved it. Oh my gosh, what a great museum. If you're in Colorado, even if you're not in Colorado, you've got to go to the Sasquatch Outpost. Oh my. And now they have an animatronic, I'm probably not saying that right, statue. We haven't seen him yet. We can't wait to see him. But such a great place, and will really open your mind about whether or not Sasquatch exists. So, oh my goodness, it was so much fun. So, and then when I got back home, I got Bigfoot fever. And I started to research and watch everything I could on Bigfoot. I watched about everything on Amazon and Netflix that you can imagine on the subject. And so I even got into it more than Sam. It was so funny. But, because it was just so therapeutic for me. But anyway, but it really brought us close. And now we go usually once a week. out to the mountains and we hike and we squatch. We go bigfooting. And we've seen some really interesting things and heard some really interesting things. We haven't seen a Sasquatch yet. And if I do, I hope it's from, way, way over there, because I don't want to be scared. And but my bravery is way better than, when we first started. Yeah, sometimes I get a little panicked, but now we are talking about starting a research organization. So why do all this? Isn't this just some fantasy creature, whatever? I happen to believe that Sasquatch exists, but even if I didn't, it doesn't matter, because I've seen so much growth in Sam from this. Like one November, we went to a town hall that was hosted by the Sasquatch Outpost, and in the middle of the meeting, Sam, who is shy and reserved, and he'll barely say a word to people sometimes, he's got selective mutism, he spoke up in the middle of the meeting. I could tell there was something burning on him that he had to speak up. And he talked about this vocalization he knew about called the St. Louis vocalizations. And not even Jim Myers knew about it. Hardly anybody there knew about it. And so after the meeting, they were all coming, several people came up and talked to him about it. My son, who does not talk to very many people, and he certainly doesn't talk in a group out loud. So he did that. And then I noticed the last time we went camping there, which was in June, we were driving around and we were coming out of this road, and there was another camper coming in with a pop-up, and they stopped like that, and Sam rolled down his window, and Sam says, "Campground's full," because we had just come by a campground. "Campground's full." And then he proceeded to give directions to the gentleman about another place he could go to find a campground. Sam talking to somebody just pulling up alongside of him with another camper. He wouldn't have been able to do that several years ago. So that is all a result of the bigfooting. And it's really been the number one reason why he's gotten through all this stress in the last year and a half. So, and most of all, it's brought us closer as mother and son. Very, very important. Because really the most important thing of all when it comes to homeschooling is your relationship with your child. That's really got to be the number one thing. All right, so I hope that helps. It's a long spiel about my out-of-the-box homeschooling ideas, tips and tricks that I personally have put into practice and seen success with. So, hope that inspires you. And again, check out my little book, lostarttoplay.com. It's very, very simple, quick read, and it's going to give you a foundation to think outside of the box for your homeschool. Okay, so this is Dana Susan Beasley of angelarts.biz. Together, may we reach new heights in our homeschooling and beyond.